Today in Social Studies, we are going to begin our study of Chapter 6, which is Ancient China. As always, there are songs at the beginning, and then we have 5 lessons to cover. So we will get started with Lesson 1 in just a minute, but I'm going to lead you through these songs just so you can see how many there are. And again, if you've not been watching the songs, I encourage you to do so as it will help you learn the material. Lesson 6.1, Geography and Early China. The big idea today is Chinese civilization began with the Shang Dynasty along the Huanghe. The main ideas: China's physical geography made farming possible, but travel and communication difficult. Civilization began in China along the Huanghe and Shang Jiang rivers. So again, we've got different rivers we need to learn. Huanghe, Shang Jiang. China's first dynasties helped Chinese society develop and made many other achievements. All right, so let's talk about the geography for a second here. We have very varied landscape in China, and it's huge. It covers an area of almost 4 million square miles. So a vast land. Up to the north, we have the Gobi Desert. And then low-lying plains in the east actually make up one of the world's largest farming areas, even today. And then we have mountain ranges that lie in the west, including the Plateau of Tibet and the Chenling Shanди. And due to this, there was very limited contact between the people in the east part of China and the people in the west part of China. And then the weather and the temperature, just like here in the United States, since it's so big, it varies from cold and dry to wet and humid. It just depends on where you are. And then the monsoons can bring up to 250 inches of rain each year. So remember the monsoons we talked about in India. Well, India is to the west of China. So, all right, these two rivers, Huanghe, and not to get this any more confusing, but they don't just go by one name. The Huanghe is also referred to as the Yellow River, and that's because of the silt that it washes down, and it's the color of it. The Huanghe is nearly 3,000 miles long. It is in northern China, and when it floods, we are talking devastating destruction. So it is referred to as China's sorrow. So in monsoon season, the Huanghe, which is also the Yellow River, and also called China's sorrow because of the flooding. All right. The Shang Jiang is the second river we're going to talk about. It is the longest river in Asia. And of course, it can't just have one name, it has two. So the Shang Jiang is also the Yangtze River. It flows across central China from Tibet all the way out to the Pacific Ocean. So the Huanghe, also referred to as the Yellow River and China's sorrow, and the Shangjiang, referred to as the Yangtze or the Yangtze River. Okay, there's a video on the next slide that you're going to come back and watch that will help you not only concrete these names that are so hard, but the terminology as well. Okay, there should be a map here. There we go, slowly but surely. All right, here is a physical map of China, and while it's loading, you can see China's in green and this outline of the United States in red. So compared to the United States, you know, they're a little larger, but about the same. So China is located here. This is India. Way here is Africa. So we have an elevation map, and the darker this color of orange, the higher the elevation. So remember when we talked about India and the Himalayas? The Himalayan mountains separate China from India. So you have the world's tallest mountains separating China and India. And of course, that would be the western part of China. And then you have the rivers, and there are more than what we just talked about, but the rivers and plains of eastern China have long been that huge, vast, important farming area. And it's mainly due to the silt that comes down. And they call their silt loess. So let's go back to the very beginning, and let's talk about how civilization began. So in our other societies and civilizations we've talked about, people used to be nomadic, remember? So they moved, and then they started growing food, or nomadic, dare go there, I go there. And once they started with agriculture and farming, they could stay put and become sedentary, no longer nomadic. So this happened in China as well. The frequent flooding, just like in Mesopotamia and Egypt and in India, it all made the land fertile around the Shang Jiang and the Huanghe rivers. So this is where people settled, of course. And along with farming, the Chinese people also hunted, they fished, and they called what is called domesticated animals. So it's using animals for your own purpose, for your good. So to begin with, you had these small villages along the rivers, and those villages grew into larger cities. Then separate cultures developed in the north and in the south, kind of like here in America, same thing. And then over time, people learned how to dig wells, to use the potter's wheel. And according to some of the things that have been found by archaeologists at burial sites, it suggests that the ancient Chinese believed in an afterlife and had a very complex social order. So here we go with our social stratus again, or social hierarchy, or like in India, the caste system. So just like in Egypt, we have dynasties. So our first dynasty we're going to talk about in China is the Shia Dynasty. Xia is Shia. So the Shia Dynasty might have been founded around 2200 BC or BCE. And if so, they say that it was founded by Yu the Great. Isn't that a cool name? Tales say that Yu the Great dug these channels to drain floodwaters, which created the major waterways of North China. So this is similar like tall tales of Paul Bunyan and things that we have here in the United States. Since archaeologists have not found any firm evidence that these tales of the Shia dynasty are true, we don't know whether or not this was kind of like a folklore legend type thing, or if it actually existed. So we're just going to mention it now, and maybe as we gain more information, one day we'll know. So the Shang or the Shang Dynasty. This dynasty was established, we know this dynasty existed, about 1500 BC. So the Shang Dynasty, they were the first that we have clear evidence to support. So the first clear evidence dynasty. The Shang reorganized the social order in China. At the top, we have the royals. So think of Britain, royal blood. You're born into that long line of rulers. Then underneath them, you have the nobles, and then the warriors, the artisans, so your artsy people, the farmers, remember the ones that started it all, and they're down at the bottom. Without them, no one lives. And then slaves. So in the Shang Dynasty, most citizens live within the city walls for protection, of course. And the Shangs made many cultural advances, such as China's first writing system, complex tools, metal pots, and ornaments. So you're going to come back and watch the video on the following slide about the Shang Dynasty. And then we're going to forward here in just a second, look at the next two image slides. When we get finished with the image slides, that is the end of lesson 6.1. And then after that, you have a video, which is the Schlesinger Ancient China video. You're not watching that video today. So here, let me show you. This is the video you're going to watch. So one right after the lesson. And my image is not loading again. Okay, so here is the image of the Shang Dynasty. So you can see all of this is China, continent of Asia, and this in green is the Shang Dynasty from like 1500 to 1050 BC/BCE. And here we have a bronze Shang container, and it's shaped like a tigress. So there's the first image, and here's the second image. Okay, so Chinese writing. And if you look at it, it kind of started out sort of like a pictograph. And then remember in Mesopotamia we had cuneiform where they take the stylus and the clay and make it. That's very similar to this, except it's totally different. It's more like a picture. And here, let's talk about this for a second. This is actually a turtle shell. But they would also use bones, and we'll talk about this in another lesson. But you see all these little carvings that are made in it. That's going to be important later on within the culture. So this is just showing an example, and this is how we know that they did have a writing style. This is the Schlesinger video I was talking about. You do not watch this lesson or this video today. So this is the end of lesson 6.1. Next time we will pick up with 6.2, the Shang Dynasty and new ideas.